Hi there and welcome to another Rook ending video. Today we are gonna have a look at the so-called passive defense. After watching this video, you will be able to judge in which cases you can apply the passive defense successfully and in which situations you should rather aim for some other setup. So let's get right into it. What is the passive defense actually about? If you defend with the passive defense, you just put your rook on your back rank and then wait there basically forever. You're not doing anything active, you're just waiting with your rook passively. That's why it's called like this, and we will see several examples. We will see a pawn on the h file, we will see a pawn on the g file in the next example, and we will see a pawn on the f file. And we will figure out in which cases this passive waiting approach is sufficient to draw the game and in which cases it will lose. So as you might already guess, with a pawn on the rim, may it be an h pawn or an a pawn, there is no chance to win. And the passive defense is in the most cases not the only way. In this particular case, it was the only way because there was a checkmating threat and we have no check, so we were forced to go passive. But if our rook, for example, were here, then we could also check the white king and this h pawn wouldn't be strong enough. However, today's topic is the passive defense, and that's why we are gonna have a look at rook to a8. And basically it's already over here because white cannot do anything meaningful. If he would try to get to our king, we could first of all just wait, because he cannot really get us out of the corner, and he can also not push his pawn in such a scenario. He would even drop his rook. Furthermore, we could also give a check on the 6th rank, after which we return to the passive defense, and there is absolutely not even a try by white. So let's have a look. Can white maybe push the pawn first? But again, there is nothing wrong with waiting passively, and again we can just wait passively as there is no chance for the white rook to enter on the back rank. We can always just capture the white rook. The fun thing is we could even play for stalemate here, but that's more of a coincidence and it's not really necessary. So the key point is that against an h pawn or against an a pawn, the passive defense is sufficient and you don't need to stress about any other kind of setup when you know this is rock solid and he won't break through. So let's have a look at the next example. We will now have a look at the position where the pawn is on the g file, and this might look a bit trickier because the king is a bit more safe against checks from the side because the pawn is in the way. So for example, if we go to the passive defense, we already know passive defense means just waiting on the back rank, moving back and forth, not doing anything active. And if white was to play rook b7 now, we wouldn't have a check. We cannot go rook a6 now because we are mated first. However, that's not our purpose. Our purpose is just to wait passively, and we will figure out if this is enough or not. So what can white try? He can try to give a check here, and here actually we should pay some attention. Should we go to the corner or should we go to f8? And actually we need to go to the corner, because if we went to f8, he had king to h7, and after that he will kick our king away. Then our king needs to go to the e file, then he might move the rook up and our king is kind of cut, and then it's, yeah, more or less losing because his pawn will just promote. So that would be quite bad. So remember this, we must not allow to let our king be cut off But instead we just stay in the corner. And now what can he try? He can go back to any square on the 7th rank, but actually then we can also go back. So the other try is to give a check, and at this point he should consider if he can push his pawn, followed by rook to h8. But actually this again loses, because now and only now we are leaving the passive defense and have this saving check, even winning the game, because white blundered the rook. So rook c6, king must go, and we take the rook. So white cannot really try this, and apart from this try there are not any other tries. Again, this move g7, it doesn't lead anywhere. First of all, we could give a check and the king would be cut off, and without support of the king the pawn won't go anywhere. Now we're just waiting on the 6th rank, and as soon as the white rook leaves the 7th rank we can grab the pawn. So that's not leading anywhere, but again we could also just wait on the 8th rank, giving the check later, because he can really not force our rook to go anywhere else. So this is again drawing very comfortably, and it's, in my opinion, the easiest way to draw against a cheap pawn. So let's now have a look at the situation with a f-pawn, and we try to figure out if this is still enough to draw the game. So let's have a look at the position. Black is again saying, I will just wait, and you cannot really get your pawn through. However, and yeah, I will tell you now, white can break through. And the key difference is that the pawn is too far in the center, and the same will be true for all the central pawns from c to f-file. So, but how can white actually win this? The key idea here is that we will first give a check on g7. Now it does not really matter where the king goes, because we do the same in both cases. We will examine both the moves in detail. So first we'll start with king to h8. After this we give another check. King needs to go to g8, and now we play pawn to f7 check. And the key to all this is that the board is just like big enough on the right side of the pawn, so that we can come here with the rook, and on the other side this wouldn't be possible to ever go down there with the rook, because the passive rook defends all those squares. But on the other side of the pawn we have enough space, and we can simply go to h8 with our rook. We pick up his rook, and it's easily winning. So you might ask, why is he going to h8 then? If we have another check, then another check, and another check. So let's try f8 instead. And here it's a bit different, but not so much. We again go rook h7. This is not just threatening the rook, this is threatening checkmate, so he needs to react. And when he goes back, we have exactly the same check, check, and picking up the rook. So this doesn't work for him either. And if he runs immediately, we immediately pick up the rook. So this is just over. The only technique you need to remember is start with this intermediate check, because the king will be much worse on f8 than on g8. So why is that? Well, the king is worse on f8 because if the king was on g8, this rook move wouldn't threaten mate in 1. And even though f7 is a huge threat here, black is in time to play rook to b6, because the rook itself is not threatening a checkmate here. And now f7 is not allowed because it's pinned. Furthermore, black even threatens to take the pawn and deflect our king, take the rook, and make a draw. So is it already a draw here? The answer is no. White can still return to the winning position by playing something like rook to c7, rook a7, or rook d7 works the same. Now we are threatening checkmate, and black has nothing better to go back to the passive defense. But now we have the chance to correct our prior mistake and this time start with a check, and after king f8 go rook to h7, threatening mate, and if he prevents it, f7 check. So if we do it wrong one time, it's not a big deal. We can correct our play by repeating the moves once, and after forcing him back to the passive defense, we can apply the right technique. So remember this, the passive defense is a good defense against the pawns which are very close to the rim, but it is a very poor defense and will always lose to central pawns because the rook just has enough scope on the outer side of the pawn, and while the defensive rook can cover all those squares, it will not cover the squares on the other side of the pawn, and we will basically deliver checkmate or a skewer from there. So that's basically all you need to know about the passive defense, when it works, when it doesn't work, and you can apply it in your games. You can outplay your opponents if they apply it the wrong way. That's it for this video. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. That really helps me a lot. And I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.